So, Arjun, welcome again. I think last time we had a conversation which was again about the hack. And this time it's really serious what's been put out in the article. And I want to know your views. And before that, how you and your exchange are going through this bull run amidst all of this.
So I think this bull run has been like long awaited. I mean, right from 2021 onwards, right? It has been 3 years now, and we are like patiently waiting for it. We had glimpses of the bull run in the start of this year. In March, we had a good thing, but again, we had to wait for like 8 more months for the next leg and for a new all-time high. So I've been patient, I think, but once it has started, it has been incredible, right? We had like 30% Bitcoin movement in like 1 week, which is kind of unprecedented. So extremely positive atmosphere. So
Right.
overall, it's for the exchange and
Does
people.
things does things become working at a rapid pace? Because I have also worked in crypto exchange in WazirX during the bull run. Everything becomes so pacey, and you got to be
Yeah,
correct
yeah.
at every step, right? You got to be going on your socials, you got to get your tutorial videos right, and you got to get the right information to the people. So how much of it is a challenge for you,
See, it is definitely a challenge, but it's also a fun, right? In bear market, you need to wake up, take yourself from the bed and say, okay, I have to do these things. But now you wake up with full energy. You want to do 100 things today, and everyone is sharing that same kind of energy. The vibes are there. People are excited. I think a lot more gets done, right? Compared to bear market where you have a lot of time to do a lot of things, but you don't. Some of the people might lack motivation. You need to push them. You need to make them understand. But right now, you don't need to motivate people. People know it is most important time, right? There are 100 things you can do, and you end up doing 120 things, right? We get a lot accomplished once the when the market shows you that you are in the right track. Yeah.
So I would like to bring the focus from this very glamorous side of the picture to the dark side of the picture, which is upon the Wazir exchanges who still not got their funds back. And so I want to talk about the article which came in yesterday, from the India Today. What do you make out of it, first of all?
So I think this was already kind of expected, right? So in July, August, when we had started getting the initial information, at that point of time, the modus operandi was very clear, right? The scammers, they were using some account in WazirX to repeatedly withdraw Gala token, right? Because the Gala token became empty in the hot wallet, these people had to use the signatures to move funds from cold wallet to hot wallet, and that is when this whole compromise happened, right? So people were curious at that point of time, right? That which was this account which withdrew this Gala token multiple times? Was this account connected to hackers, right? Because that is the most probable thing, because Gala is not a very common token that people withdraw in large amounts, right? If the single user is withdrawing multiple times Gala token, there is something that is fishy. And I assume this person would have gotten crypto or he would have purchased through P2P. I think from scammers perspective, crypto is easier, right? Because otherwise they would want to have a mule account, then take USDT. So that is the assumption we went by at that point of time. But of course, right, we are not law enforcement. We are not privy to all this information. So yesterday's article, see, still I have not got access to the chart sheet, so I haven't seen anything. I am just going by the article. So it's assumed that whoever was that particular person whose account was used, either that person, or if it was a fake account, right? The person who sold that account or who created that fake account, that particular person has been arrested. And was I was curious to see that 800 rupees was the total amount that guy got for creating a fake account. So that's how cheap it is to buy a mule account in India. That is scary, right? It's really scary that with 800 rupees you can create a fake account, and you have fake credentials. So that is where it is.
Right. And what do you make of the liminal? Because in the article it mentions that liminal has not provided enough of proofs, right? As per the article of India Today. But the charge sheet, which I have seen, does not say so, right? So liminal not because there's a lot of again there's a tug of war between WazirX and liminal. As per the article, the person who was reported is seriously saying that WazirX has cooperated with you know the entire process, but Liminal has not. But in the charge sheet, it's like, that there is further charge sheet will also going to be filed up. And so what do you
See,
see? Because there's a tug of war, clear tug of war, right? And I read your comments on LinkedIn also, right? Where you're explaining to Sumarak, as to,
yeah.
is this really a hack? Because he asked you, that in your opinion, is this a hack or was it open vulnerability exploited to steal BDAs? So elaborate on that. What do you have to say?
So see, first thing between WazirX and Liminal, how I would see honestly is that WazirX has almost lost everything already, right? They have very little to lose now. And whatever is happening through the moratorium process. But Liminal has a lot more to lose because they were just, I mean, their funds have not been hacked, right? They are just a vendor and they have vendor relationship with multiple other people, right? So every time they get mentioned and in a negative light, right, it kind of creates jitters for their other customers. So a lot of them would have already stopped using Liminal, and Liminal will find it hard to get new customers, right? This despite being them getting licenses in multiple jurisdictions to operate, right? This could not have come at a worse moment for them, right? And also the moment hack happened, right? There was a lot of to and fro. The tug of war that you were mentioning happened a lot during the July August timelines, right? People were passing on the blame that their systems were safe, the other system got compromised. So I think after that initial episode, so Liminal has more or less been quiet, right? They have been biding time. I'm not sure about how much they have been cooperating with the law enforcement, how much they are not, what details they have shared, what details they haven't shared, right? So this is something that I have no idea, right? And I don't want to comment, right? Regarding that exact hack, regarding that exact hack, if you look at it, I think this is the same thing that came out in August. I think I am mostly going by Mudit Gupta, Polygon's security person, who had a detailed blog, right? I mean, I have not refreshed myself. Maybe I'm getting some of these things wrong, right? It has been a long time since that hack happened, and I've not been in constantly looking at that. So what has happened was there are total, I think, 6 signatures, out of which 5 was with WazirX and 1 was with Liminal, right? And at any point of time, 4 signatures were required, right, to pass a transaction. So the reason it was designed such a way is that even if Liminal loses the key, Liminal account is compromised, no matter what, WazirX will have full access because they have 5 whole keys, right? And you need only 4 keys to access. So even if WazirX can lose a key, Liminal can lose a key, still they would have had access to the funds. That was the whole idea, I assume. Uh, I mean, they used a safe implementation, but they didn't use the standard safe. They, I think, made some customizations. That is what Gnosis, the safe wallet, also had to make a public disclosure. Uh, so they made, I think, 3 transactions, right? Each of those transactions, the purpose was to reveal the keys, right? The first transactions failed, I assume, right? Um, the last one succeeded, right? Where Liminal put their signature. And that is how all these keys got compromised, right? And once hacker had all the access, they didn't have access to the key, but they had access to the signatures, the hackers. Using those forged signatures, they were able to change the contents of the smart contract to change the ownership, right? Once they got control of the smart contract, right? They didn't need any other keys. They didn't need any activity. They were in full control and they just moved all the funds from the WazirX wallet to the wallet that they controlled, right? And that's how the hack happened. And after that, I could see that they have been continuously using Tornado Cash to move the funds, right? I guess most of the funds have already been converted into Ethereum and then after that laundered through Tornado Cash. So after this, I'm not private to any. I think there are some funds that have been sent to some international exchanges which have been frozen, but I don't have any public information on what is the quantum of the value that has been recovered so far. And there has also been a bounty that had been announced, right? How much of the bounty has been paid? What is the progress? I think we would have to wait for WazirX team to give public updates on all these things.
Right. So just apart from this, I know, I mean, apart from the mule accounts, apart from the tug of war, and do you want to comment upon the timing of this hack? Do you want to comment upon the timing of this hack?
The timing was very bad because I
Because
remember
if you look at from above, this hack is being done just ahead of the bull run, right? And a year back, WazirX has shifted all their funds from the wallet of a dominant exchange to Liminal, right? If you go by the the chronology of events, it's kind of. Do you want to comment upon the timing of this hack?
See, I think at that point of time, the biggest disappointment all the ecosystem people had was this came 5 days before the budget. And we were expecting some kind of a positive movements in terms of reduction in TDS, reduction in taxation, right? Some hint on how the industry is going to get regulated. And we had cold water poured on all our expectations. The moment the hack happened, we decided that even if government had some positives in the budget, they would have deleted it just like that, right? Because no one wanted to make a comment on crypto ecosystem at that point of time. So I think that was the most or the hardest part, right? That is first thing. The second thing is, I think hackers don't look at the timing of it, right? The moment they discover a vulnerability, they just act, right? Because it makes no sense for, I mean, there are some hackers probably who'd wait for a bull run for the assets to grow in size, wait for the right moment and then capitalize. But better a bird in hand is worth two in a bush. They might have thought, right? So the moment they came across the vulnerability, they would have done some test transactions. I also read that July first week or so, they did some test transactions. They used similar attack vector, but not on WazirX wallets, on some other wallet. They ensured that this method works, and then they executed their plans on July 18th, right? I don't think they timed it, but it could not have come at a worse time, right? Look at all the WazirX holders; they are waiting for their funds desperately, right? I assume most of their funds would have gone up by 30-40%, right? Uh, it's almost close to what they held. Uh, so still, some of them may not be in square. See, people who held Doge, right? Doge is up 80%, right? It's almost like they would have lost 50%, but gained 80%, which means they're having more than 100% of their funds, which they had in July 18th. If they had it in any other exchange, they would have been able to enjoy this 80% gains. But because it was in WazirX, but at least they're getting the initial principal back. But but the problem is this whole thing is stuck in the moratorium process. And I'm not sure if there is a simple way of WazirX just returning the funds in an easy manner, right? That would have been much better, right? At least before the bull run is over, they should have had access to the funds.
I just want to, just coming here. Is Nischal trying to save his business right now? Because everybody, if he allows people to withdraw their funds, which ideally people should get their funds, I think people will take out all their money, right?
See, I would not say so also, right? There will be always 10-20% who would leave their funds over there, and that is still close to 200-300 crores, right? That is something, that's not nothing, right? But overall, the kind of business they did, they would lose 90-95% of the business. For most businesses, this kind of kills the business. It makes no sense, right? Probably that is the reason why was initial is talking about a DEX now and not a centralized exchange, right? He would not want to continue with the same modus operandi. That is first thing. And issuing new tokens, it is almost like, do they have any patented idea or a specific idea that makes their DEX somehow better? Because see, centralized exchange is a commodity product, right? You have an efficient trade engine, you set up your systems, and you do it. And multiple people can run exchanges. But if you look at DEX, it's a winner take all, right? There are only a few DEXs that are available, and it is very difficult to match the kind of liquidity that Uniswap or let's say TANX, right? Some of these prominent DEXs have, right? You cannot wake up one day and say, I'm going to start a DEX to ensure people recover their funds. But why would people use this particular DEX over any other DEX, right? If they had this idea, they could have done this 2 years back, 1 year back, if the idea was really good, right? Issuing new tokens again creates more issues, more problems, right? How are they going to make good of all these people, right? Would the DEX have any value at all, right? So there are multiple questions. I think it's very simple, right? I would say return all the funds back to the users, right? You still owe them. If you find a method to recover some of the funds through that or by selling the WazirX brand, WazirX tech stack, some of these things, right? You make good of the customers as much as possible. That is the best thing. But not letting go of customer funds is like the worst thing that could happen, right? The market has really pumped now. But if the market were to crash 30-40% next week, some people of the WazirX, they could have sold it if they had control. They would have booked profits, right? Or at least they would have got the principal back after this pump. But none of this is happening, right? They have to wait till probably till February, March, uh, as per their last statement. And not sure. I mean, that could be an optimistic timeline. That could be a pessimistic timeline, right? No one is really sure about exact timelines, right? That's
But
just one of the
timeline, they came out with a timeline of events, right? They came out with a timeline of events, and I think it's February, which they have called it out. But for a
but
simple,
that is a model timeline. That is not like something that they guarantee, right? Anything could
yeah,
happen in legal things.
yeah, there's a word approximation associated to that. Yeah, yeah. So for a simple layman, why would a crypto exchange after a hack would hold on to people's funds? Can you explain that? What could be the reasons, potential reasons? Ideally, it should be given. We have seen it earlier in the scenario because the
So
only
first thing, as a business owner, I think he wants to continue. He wants to find a way, right, to write off customers' assets and still continue it as a business, because say at some point in time it was valued at $1 billion, probably, right? And now it's almost close to zero. If we cannot continue running WazirX as a centralized exchange, right, the value is close to zero. And there is also a dispute between Binance and WazirX. I'm not sure what is the title of the dispute, where it's going to end in, right? But probably there is something that favorable that can happen to the management team from that dispute, right? So there are multiple things, right? And the WazirX was like in the top two in terms of market share. They had a really sweet spot. So give that all up, and basically, if you look at the overall communications, every time Nischal has said there is no point of liquidating the company. They don't want to shut down WazirX, right? That is something that, so even when they said about this scheme, moratorium, and all those things, they didn't talk about company liquidation. They are trying to find a way for the company to survive even after customer assets are lost, right? And the most important problem is they are also not pulling in their own funds, right? They have made a lot of profits. The Singapore entity has made a lot of profits, right? Those details are yet to be disclosed, right? But if customers are basically are socializing losses only among customers, that is also a big pain point that we had pointed out back in July. So there are multiple issues with this whole thing. But I would say he has acted very selfishly. That is the whole point.
oh, which goes by a lot of people and bloggers who kind of saying the same thing that because people have questioned him that what is his share of profits which he's contributing to people's money. That's what people are saying.
They have already sold some of the assets of WazirX back in 2019 to Binance, right? So they have definitely made a lot of money from this, right? But when users are at a loss, at least I'm not saying 100%, even 10% contribution from the promoters, right, of the overall loss amount would make customers feel at least a little bit of happiness, right? It cannot be that only customers, because customers made no mistake here, right? It is some level of carelessness, some level of, I would not even say this did not happen with anyone's intention, right? No one in WazirX wanted for it to get hacked, but clearly the management struggles, like who is the owner and all those things, would have made the execution of the operations pretty slow, right? All this could have caused, right? But end of the day, if you are to blame, you could only blame the management. You cannot blame the customers, right? But if you look at the losses, only customers are bearing the losses and not the management. That is not fair.
Right, right. Do you think this is an attack on WazirX or Indian crypto ecosystem? Because WazirX was the largest crypto exchange, right? I'm just saying how the discussions are
Because
going on.
that's
I
just
mean,
pure money, just pure business, right? Use the This hacker got 2,000 crores, right? What more would he need, right? See, typically, uh, I don't think they care about any of these things. They just care about money, right? They found some money that has been like weakly secured. They found a loophole and then they utilize that loophole, right? These guys are not ethical guys. These guys are don't have any moral. This thing they just want to make money. And probably if this was North Korea, they had like states support. They don't have to worry about anything. Probably they have even been pushed by the state to be more aggressive, get even more funds, right? So I don't think it is an attack on WazirX or the ecosystem. It was just, see, if the perpetrators are from India, maybe we could go in that line of assumption. Even then, when 2,000 crores is involved, it's mostly about money. It's always about the money, right? It's not about anything else.
right. And also, what do you have to say about Binance? Because Binance basically owned WazirX and they just pushed back, right? So why are people not asking questions to CZ? I see there's a clear bias amongst crypto influencers.
See, I
The
think
question is still,
you are
but they
correct.
should.
Right?
And
You
on
are
the
absolutely
17th,
correct.
Binance is holding its first meetup. And I am saying crypto influencers and people going gaga over it. Nischal is accountable to this thing. He's coming on YouTube, addressing it. I accept the point that he's being selfish and he should have contributed. But the same amount of questions must be posed to CZ because ultimately he was the owner, if not Binance, right?
Yeah. See, see, there are questions to be answered, but if you look at it, the 2022 or so, I think the statement that was made was, right, Binance is no longer involved with WazirX, right? And he asked specifically for customers to remove the assets from WazirX, right? But it was WazirX who was continuing to run the operations, right? It is WazirX who has approved this mule account. It is WazirX who was handling the wallets when this hack happened. So I would say most of the blame lies on WazirX people, right? If Nischal or someone had said 6 months back, 1 year back, right? Actually, there is a dispute. We are not clear who is the founder. It is better for users not to use this platform, right? If it is not Nischal's platform, right? He is not having the ownership. Why is he encouraging people to use it? Why is he running the operations? Why is he running the customer support? He should simply ask, see, and he's basically working for behalf of Binance, right? He's working on behalf of Binance benefit, but that is also not true, right? So what was the intention behind Nischal running this whole exchange? And he never made a single statement saying that customers, please take the assets away from the exchange because there is a dispute, right? If tomorrow something happens, I am not responsible. Binance made that statement that they are not responsible. Binance said remove all the funds from WazirX funds has to be removed from Binance on a particular date, right? And WazirX complied. They removed all the funds from Binance platform to their own custody. That is what end of the day caused this whole problem. So WazirX wanted, Binance wanted to kind of kill WazirX in a way, right? They did want wash their hands away from this whole responsibility.
Well, that's what the Binance's plan is, right? If you go back to the Forbes article, which I've made a video out of it, they they kind of infuse this corporate structure in Binance US, where if you see the structure, WazirX was their Tai Chi entity. And the purpose of this entity was to just begin it, evade the regulators, and consume it, right?
Correct, correct. So Archit, so in this, whatever happened before 2022, right? There was this Chinese loan app scam and all those things.
Yeah,
Binance is equally responsible or even more responsible, right? I have no
exactly.
doubt in that. I have no doubts on that, right? Uh, Probably that is the whole dispute, right? Both of them saying I am not responsible, right? Basically, this tug of war started way back
But,
in 2020
yeah,
and 22, right? It has
yeah,
it has moved on from Binance WazirX to Binance Liminal, sorry, WazirX Liminal and WazirX Binance, right? So
yeah.
whatever happened before 2022, we need to, I think it is still under dispute, right? It is under sub judice, right? Who is actually responsible for running that platform? I assume Binance had control over the crypto wallets. The Indian entity of WazirX Zanmai, they had control over the bank account and the KYC part, right? Basically, the scam happened in both the sides, right? The KYC got approved. There was no limits. Someone, a particular customer was able to withdraw 2,700 crores with little oversight, right? And the withdrawal ultimately happened to crypto wallets,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think both of them are culpable, and both of them have earned enough from the Indian markets to pay off those. Right? Binance has made much more money from India than these numbers, right? That's what my assumption would be, right? They can pay off this. Yeah, tell
Do you
me.
think do you think that CZ trapped Nischal in his own corporate structure agreement? Do you feel that? Just in defense of Nischal right now, since we know that
See,
he acted selfishly.
if you look at lawyers, right? Every lawyer wants to create a watertight system, right? And different objectives are there. If you look at Binance, the whole objective was to create multiple entities for multiple countries. As long as possible, they wanted to be unregulated. There was not even public information on who is the ultimate owner, which is the ultimate. Yeah. So even if you look at Nishal's one of the statements, right? Tell me which is the Binance holding entity, right? He asked it in public, and at that point,
Yeah,
no one had any answer for that, right? Why would a system have such opaqueness, right? So there's definitely the system was designed to evade regulators. That is the reason why Binance paid $4 billion in fine in US. CZ spent some time in jail, right? There is, I mean, I think it's beyond doubt. It is not even subject to fact check, right? These things are very
yeah.
clear. Right?
These things are very
So
clear.
I think they are responsible, but post 2022, this particular thing, right? Chinese loan app scam, the regulatory problems, complaints problems, the ED issue, both Binance and WazirX are responsible, or let courts decide who is responsible. But post 2022, I think the even right now, right, the moratorium and everything is run by Nischal, not by Binance, right? Nischal is still taking those decisions, right?
Yes.
Who is taking decisions, right? So I don't think we bring. It would be right to bring Binance into this picture, because I don't think they can do anything about it. There is a subsidies thing, even if they want to, right? What will they do? They want to take control of WazirX again, right? Why would they want to own this 2000 crore loss that happened under Nishal, right? I mean, everyone is selfish, end of the day, right? Uh, if it happened under the watch of Binance, there is a moral obligation for them to do it, but it not happened under their watch. It would be great if they can come and contribute something, right? But the whole problem here is that subjudice thing. There is a case that is going on, and we don't even know what is the case about, right? What are they talking to? Because in public domain, the fight that has been going on is I don't own Binance, you own Binance, right? That is the statement that is made by both CZ and this thing, right? It is very weird that there is a case that has been fought where people are contesting, they don't own something. Typically, it's always opposite, right? So if that is the case, and if something comes out of that case, how would that impact this whole moratorium, ownership, and all those things? I mean, it's a very complicated case, right? Where it happened to any other exchange, it would have been a simple open and shut matter. But this has a history, a baggage, so many complications. The founders are not based out of India. The company is based out of Singapore, moratorium in Singapore. There's another arbitration that's happening in Singapore.
Binance does not even exist in Singapore. They used to, but they after the regulator came into the check, they just left Singapore. So how is this? Because that's the code where WazirX is fighting it out,
So,
right? Binance does
so
not
users
exist.
are caught between the devil and the deep sea. I mean, there is always a statement, right? Devil and the deep sea, right? Both of them were not fair. They have not acted fair, right? Now it's more and more complicated, right? Were it for like purely clean entities, two clean entities, and some kind of a hack were to happen, right? This would not have been the result. Right now, it's a cesspool, right? You have like 100 people to blame because there's always a mistake from multiple levels, right? Multiple areas. So I don't know. We can just keep blaming the system.
Do you think it's a deliberate fight between the two? Even though I mean, Nischal asked him some certain valid questions, but on the 5th of August 2022, I mean, when the ED caught their whole plan, because it's clearly mentioned, it's the obscuring the ownership part, even in the ED document, right? And if you look back at the Binance US corporate structure, I mean, we know the whole history, right? Do you smell something like that?
See, I guess both of them are guilty, right? They enjoyed the profits when they allowed this 2,700 crores to go out of India. They enjoyed the business. But when regulators caught up, now it's all about shifting blame, right? People say that whoever earned those revenues when such a thing happened, they are to the blame because you follow the money, right? There will be some transaction fees earned out of this 2,700 crores, right? So whoever processed those, whoever got those fees, I think they are supposed to be blamed. I would assume that is like the simplest way to define it. But legally, that is not the way you look at, right? Who had the approving authority, who reported to who, the reporting structure, and all those things. I mean, it doesn't matter what we think, what we say, right? Ultimately, this thing is going to be decided by the courts, right? As
Yeah.
an ecosystem, we should hold Nishal accountable because Nishal is ambitious when it comes to crypto, right? This is not the only crypto project that he had, right? He started with WazirX, then he launched Shardium, and he's talking about a DEX now. He has invested in Pi 42, right? So he has his own interest to protect, right? So it is very important. He acts fair. He seems to be fair. So those kind of things, it is for his own long-term objective, right? He needs to maintain this facade at least, right? That is the reason why the pressure put by crypto ecosystem would ultimately make him accountable. If you look at it, he's not run away. He is still in Twitter. He is still trying to pose as a ethical person, right? So end of the day, if you are able to factually counter him, right? Why XYZ is happening, and if enough people factually counter him, it will force him to act in the right manner. That is the reason why we are putting this pressure. If it was for someone like an SBF or someone like a 100% scammer who is then like a hit run, right? Hit and run. You do a scam and then you just disappear. In those cases, there's nothing. that you'll achieve by talking in Twitter or making a news out of it. But if someone wants to be a celebrity, right? Someone wants to continue to do projects in the crypto ecosystem. It is very important for them to come clean, right? So we have to hold them accountable so that they do that. I think Binance also has that because they have a big future in India. They are registered in FIU now. They want to operate in India. So it is time that everyone comes clean, everyone is transparent on what is happening and how they are going to help the users. Ultimately, for me, any solution that benefits the users is the best thing, right? Because ultimately these people did not have a great Diwali, right? When the whole India was celebrating, there is like a handful of people who are still uh, in the loss and they're worried about their loss. They don't have a specific timeline when they will get at least partial funds back. So I think that is the most important problem right now that needs to be addressed, this blame game. So even in this interview, I have been blaming them, all these people, but ultimately it doesn't lead to anything monetary, right? I need
Right.
some monetary compensation for this WazirX victims. I think that would be the best thing that can happen to the ecosystem. Till that happens,
Right.
we need to hold these people accountable. That is my
Right.
say.
So you're saying that Nischal probably should yell out his share of profits, I mean, to the people or to the users. And also, if he was not the owner or if there was a dispute, he should have asked users to withdraw their funds after the conflict, right? Which he did not, right? And which he kept on running, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which
So
I
that's
do
all
believe.
right. Yeah, I definitely blame him. I just don't want to say that I don't blame anyone. I don't want to make those politically right statements. So, but the blame doesn't give the users money, right? Ultimately, we need to move towards a constructive solution. I think the solution is what you have summarized. The first thing is whatever funds is available right now, immediately disburse to the users. Let users do whatever they want with it, right? They want to sell, they want to buy, they want to rotate between different assets, up to them, right? But give it them in control because it's a volatile market. Anything can happen to any asset, right? They should not wait for the bear market and then release it. At that point of time, it makes no sense. For Nishal, there is a sense to wait, right? If the funds go up by 200, 300%, he will technically say that I have paid off all the liabilities in dollar terms, right? I don't owe any of you guys anything, right? So that is something that position that he can take, right? Probably that is the reason why he's waiting as long as possible. And some users might also feel I put 1 lakh, I got 1 lakh back. So I am kind of okay, right? But that is not the right thing, right? If you look at opportunity cost and everything, that is a totally different thing. So as soon as possible, Nishal should give the money to the users, right? After that, let it multiply, right? Let them enjoy the proceeds of the bull run by themselves. If they want to book profits, let them book profits. Because right now, if it's profitable, it is WazirX kind of profit. If they make a loss, if the assets clash by 30-40%, what is WazirX going to say? They're going to say, so what can we do? It was not in our control, right? Bitcoin price crashed by 30%. What can we do? Right? So the 50% recovery becomes 30% recovery, right? Probably on the upside, he's going to give it back, right? But he has like nothing to lose. But that is the thing. It is not his profit. It is not his loss. He's just a custodian, right? He has to give away the control of his assets back to the people so that people make their own decisions, right? He has that fiduciary duty to do. That is point number one. Point number two, after this, right? If any recovery happens, he has the legal obligation to return the funds back to the people. That is always there. Third, I think it makes moral sense. I'm not sure about the legal sense, but moral sense, like all the fee that WazirX has earned over the last 3-4 years after the expenses, basically the profits. At least some part of the profits need to be paid back to the users, right? It cannot be that profits are with the management, losses are with the users, right? It can never be that case. It has to be fair. So for that, we need data. We need to know how much profits they made in the last 3-4 years. Indian entity, Singapore entity, from the sale of WazirX brand to the Binance. And I assume Binance is also holding some part of the fee that they earned from 2019 to 2021. I hear that's like 100 million or so, not 17 million or so, right? Around 200 crores. So those things also could be returned to the users because that's chump change for Binance.
Right. Okay, Arjun, thank you so much for having this conversation. I have to end. There was less than a minute remaining, but thanks again for being so frank. And I hope Giottus does well in the coming year, and all the best wishes to you. And again, thanks for frankly speaking to me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thank you. Yeah.
it.
Thank you.